Okay, girls, so we are going to do our notes for chapter 3.3. Mixtures can be separated according to the properties. So remember that in chapter 3.1, we talk about properties of mixtures, and we said that properties refer to what the mixtures were made of and also how they behave. So we will see in this chapter, when they talk about the properties of mixtures, they talk also about how a substance looks. So um, it also includes its size, mass, texture, shape, volume, and also how it behaves around other substances. And they give two examples that we're going to use later on. One is going if they are magnetic, and the other one if they are soluble. I just noticed that this word didn't come complete, so I'm just going to complete it here. Magnetic. Okay, fantastic. So before separating a mixture, you need to know the properties of the components of the substance. Okay, so before you separate the mixture, you need to know what is it made of, because that is going to give you an indication of what type of technique you can use to separate that mixture. So let's look about what separation techniques we're going to cover. Um, there are a few that we're going to covering in this chapter. Other ones are going to be covered later on in other chapters and in another document on theory part 2 that you will be doing today in class. Okay, so the ones that we are going to cover with this chapter are simple separation, magnetic separation, decanting, sedimentation, and flotation. And the other ones that we're going to cover later on are flocculation, centrifuging, filtration, evaporation, crystallization, distillation, and chromatography. Remember that we did a demo on distillation, so you already should have that diagram in your notes. Okay, so simple separation, it's very simple. So it's just, and the example that they give you in the book is quite clear. So if you have a bag of mixed lollies and you use your fingers to pick up your favorite lollies, that's already you're making a separation of a mixture. So don't think about mixtures only as being like liquids and chemical things. Anything that has two or more substances put together. Okay? Magnetic separation. So an example of magnetic separation is that iron nails can be separated from other magnetic materials such as glass, aluminum, and paper. If we have time, we'll do a prac about doing magnetic separation. But imagine that you have a bag full of iron nails, glass, aluminum, paper, and you hover over with a magnet. The magnet is going to attract the iron nails, and it's a way that you can separate the iron nails from the rest of the materials. So it uses magnets to attract and separate magnetic substances or any other substance that contains iron. The book also talks about another example about separating tin cans, which are magnetic because it contains iron, and aluminum cans, which are not magnetic. I also see here that this should be a closed bracket here. Okay, for your notes. Fantastic. Sedimentation. So we did an example of this with cleaning dirty water. So an example that I give in the book is when you have sand settling to the bottom of the glass of water. So this goes back to what we have done in previous chapters. Why does the sand go to the bottom of the glass? Because it's more dense. So again, it's talking about those properties of the substances, what is going to give us the indication of what type of technique we can use to separate the substance or the mixture. So because the sand is more dense than the water, so it will go to the bottom, creating a sediment. And we already have learned that word as well, sediment. Okay, fantastic. When sedimentation is more difficult, so when it doesn't happen by itself, you can add a chemical. A chemical can be used to make suspended particles clump together and make them heavy enough to settle in the bottom. So if you remember when we did cleaning water, you used two chemicals that you put into the cleaning water, and then we left the water for I think 15 more minutes, the dirty water, and a sediment happened, and then you were able to filter that water with filter paper and get obtain clean water. So sometimes chemicals can be used to use sedimentation. Those chemicals are called flocculants. Flotation. An example of flotation is like oil floats on the surface of waters, and we have done this before. Why does oil float? Because it is less dense than water, and then you can scoop it over, or you can use a material like, for example, in the book they talk about using cork to absorb the oil when oil is spilled in the sea. Like that will be an example. Okay, and that's the end for this chapter. If you have any questions, please, girls, let me know. And please check the answers for your questions that is attached in Google Classroom. Thank you, girls.